She said she filed a report. 6 days later, she was dead. Those were the words shared at the funeral of Shantay Butts, a 34-year-old Florida mother of 4 whose life was cut short in a way that was both preventable and painfully familiar. Because Shantay didn't just fall through the cracks, she was crushed beneath them. She reported. She documented. She warned everyone around her. And yet, no one stopped the man who was stalking her. Not the system. Not the law. Not even a signed warrant. And when it was over, when the crime scene had been cleared, when her children were left without their mother, the only question that remained was one we ask far too often. What more could she have done? It began long before the headlines. Years before the gunshot. Before the final 911 call. Before the vigils and outrage. It started the way many stories like this do. With love. Or what appeared to be love. Little Mack Williams wasn't a stranger to Shantay. He was her ex-boyfriend and the father of at least one of her children. There had been good days at first. Promises of stability. Smiles at family gatherings. But that illusion didn't last. Beneath the surface was a man already known to law enforcement. A man with a violent past. A pattern of control. And a history that would eventually become a roadmap to tragedy. His record stretched back over 20 years. Starting in 2004, Williams was repeatedly arrested in Palm Beach County. Charges included domestic battery by strangulation, felony battery, false imprisonment, stalking, burglary, aggravated assault with a firearm, and even attempted murder. In 2014, he pled guilty to felony battery and strangling a former girlfriend. That woman was found with visible injuries and told police she thought she was going to die. His sentence? 36 days in jail. In 2018, he was arrested again for stalking and trespassing. He was acquitted of stalking, convicted of trespassing, and served 59 days. Each time the violence increased, but the time behind bars didn't. By 2024, Shantay was the one calling 911. In July of that year, she reported that Williams had broken into her home, choked her in front of her child, and stolen her phone. The charges were serious: domestic battery by strangulation, felony battery, witness tampering, and depriving the ability to call for help. He was convicted and sentenced to 157 days in jail. When he got out, he was ordered not to contact her. But he did. Just 3 months later, in October, he was arrested again for violating that no-contact order. Then in November, he broke into her home once more and took her phone. That time, the felony burglary charge was dropped to a misdemeanor. He served 66 days. Still, she stayed strong. Shantay tried to move forward. She focused on her children, her work, her peace. But she also stayed alert. Because she knew he wasn't finished. She knew the pattern. And by July 2025, it had started again. Let's break down the final 11 days. On July 1st, she texted her sister, "He's back around. Keeps driving by." Her sister asked if she was okay. She replied, "Not really, but I'm trying." On July 2nd, William showed up outside her house. Again. He knocked. She didn't answer. He waited in his car. She watched from inside, terrified but silent. She didn't want to provoke him. July 3rd, she took her children to stay at a friend's house. She didn't want them to witness anything. Not again. On July 4th, he returned. He knocked, rang the doorbell, then began disabling her Ring camera. He called her from blocked numbers. When she didn't respond, he sat in his car outside, texting threats. She took screenshots and told a friend, "He's going to kill me." On July 5th, Shantay drove to the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office and filed a report. She told deputies that her ex was stalking her, harassing her, and had stolen a firearm from her vehicle. Deputies issued a felony warrant that same day, for burglary, aggravated stalking, and theft. The evidence was there. Her fear was justified. But the warrant wasn't served. He wasn't arrested. From July 6 to July 10, Shantay stayed with friends, then moved between her house and hotels in Clewiston. She kept trying to keep her children safe. She even stopped going to work. She called her sister almost every day. "I'm scared," she kept saying. "I'm so tired of being scared." On July 11th, she tried to return to some kind of normal. She stayed at home. Her kids were with her. Her boyfriend, someone new, someone she trusted, was there too. They tried to cook dinner together, watch a movie. That night, her children went to bed early. She lay down beside her boyfriend in her room, finally trying to rest. And just before midnight, he came back. Williams entered the home with terrifying precision. He didn't knock. He didn't call out. He walked through the house like he'd done it 100 times. Straight to her bedroom. The confrontation was quick. Shouts. A struggle. Then gunfire. One shot. Then another. Then screaming. Her son called 911. "Stepdaddy's breaking in. He's asking where Mama is." Then silence. More gunshots. Shantay was hit multiple times. Her boyfriend was shot in the chest. He survived. Shantay didn't. By the time officers arrived, she was gone. Pronounced dead at 11:58 p.m. inside her own home, with her children nearby. Williams didn't run. He was found lying in the street. Hands out. "Come." As if he knew it was over. He told investigators that he didn't kill her. That they argued. That someone else must have fired the gun. But witnesses said otherwise. Evidence placed him at the scene. He was arrested, charged with first-degree murder with a firearm, attempted murder, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, burglary, grand theft, and aggravated stalking. The trial hasn't started yet. But what's already on trial is the system itself. Because Shantay didn't just ask for help, she begged for it. She followed every step we tell survivors to take. She left. She reported. She documented. She protected her children. She went to the police. She trusted the process. And still, she was murdered. At her funeral, family members wept beside her casket. Her sister spoke through tears. She did everything right. Why wasn't that enough? Her children stood in silence. One of them, only 9 years old, asked, "Did Mommy go to heaven because no one helped her here?" The pain in that question can't be answered in court. In the weeks following her death, the community erupted. Protests, candlelight vigils, demands for justice, but also for change. Advocates pointed to the timeline. July 5th, report filed. July 11th, she was dead. What happened in those 6 days? Why wasn't the warrant prioritized? Why wasn't he located? And why did a man with a long documented history of violence ever get out in the first place? Palm Beach County officials released a statement saying they had acted in accordance with the law. But for many, that was the problem. The law didn't move fast enough. Experts say domestic violence cases like this often fall through because stalking on paper doesn't always look violent, until it ends in murder. Some states have started treating coercive control as a chargeable offense. Florida hasn't. In a sit-down with a local news channel, a domestic violence advocate said, "We always say, if you see something, say something." But Shantay did more than that. She said everything. She filed everything. And no one stopped it. In the weeks after, her name became part of a broader movement. The hashtag Justice for Shantay began to circulate. Lawmakers proposed expedited response units for domestic violence warrants. One proposal would allow for GPS tracking of repeat offenders released on bond. Another would create a centralized threat monitoring database for family court and criminal court to share high-risk behavior indicators. But legislative change takes time. And Shantay had no more time left. Her children are now being raised by her sister, who says every day is a mix of survival and grief. They ask when she's coming home. I don't know how to answer that. I just hug them tighter. They still sleep with the lights on. They flinch at car doors. They've been enrolled in trauma therapy. But the scars are deep. This case isn't about a single man. It's about a system that failed to treat a violent past as a present danger. It's about a mother who died doing everything we say survivors should do. It's about children left behind. And questions that no longer have answers. We often ask, why didn't she leave? But she did. Why didn't she report him? She did. Why didn't she tell someone? She told everyone. Maybe it's time we start asking the right question. When will we believe women not just with sympathy but with action? Because behind every delayed warrant, every dropped charge, every unserved order, is another Shantay. Another child sleeping in fear. Another family lighting candles instead of celebrating birthdays. In the end, Shantay left behind more than evidence. She left behind a legacy of love, a record of strength, and a question we still seem too afraid to answer. When will doing everything right finally be enough?